Greetings, LabVIEW land. I wanted to show y'all a trick I use for helping me do my initial development and testing of RT, real-time target embedded applications. So if I can grab the correct mouse here. Here we've got the top-level VI for an RT application. It's listed here under a Creo target. And we've got some libraries that has all of the actual code that runs and the automation, and this is an example of a heater controller I'm working on. But it's got a lot of stuff that is, if we try and run this, meant to run on a compact Rio. So it's going to try and connect to it. I'm here at the home office. I don't have this set up here or anything like that. It doesn't work. But what you can do is you can right click on this execution context down here. I forget exactly what it's called. Need to get to my mute button, and you can pick what context it would run under. So you can mix and match between different projects, but what's really useful is switching between running this VI as if it was running on the RT target, or you can run it as if it's running on my computer. So it's got to recompile some stuff now to run on a PC instead of the embedded controller. But now I can run this, and I even have this little debug user interface that pops up. And I've got some stuff in here that I can start playing around with, testing and tuning the PID loops. I should have these default to the known values, but right now it's not pulling them in from what it starts as default. So I could turn on the heater control. We can see the output goes on, the fan turns on. We start getting some set points here. So if I make my duct simulation temperature match our set point, the output drops off on the heater, and it's just slightly below, so the integral term is going to start winding up. And I have some daisy-chained PIDs here. So as our actual tool that we're trying to get to a certain temperature gets close, our air temperature set point will drop off. Now, the way I get this working, if we take a look at our run code, one of the things I use is one of these conditional disable structures. Actually, I usually use a handful of them in a project, but this is where I can switch between the computer-specific code, so things like timed loops that are synchronized to scan engines and I/O variables that will only work on the RT target can go in the RT target type case. And here we can see that this timed loop is set to run synchronized to the scan engine. You know, our I/O, I've got another one, so I can switch between doing the actual module I/O that I haven't implemented yet, or we can do that debug UI here. And then I've got some little code here that on the first time this gets called, it will pop open the front panel just to provide a bit of a UI when we're running and testing. So that is how, I don't want to close that yet because I want to close it with this. Get the application to actually shut down. So that's one way I go about actually testing my Creo code without having to have it on a Creo. And you can't do things like debug reentrant VIs or anything like that. So there's just some stuff you can't do when you're running on a Creo. The other thing I'll do is I'll actually set up a secondary project with just the computer target. So here's another system that's part of this test facility. And if we look at the original project, Waiting for LabVIEW is half of my job sometimes, it seems. Alright, there we go. So here's the actual Creo target. I've got the chassis with the I/O modules all set up, and we've got our library running here. And this is not bad. You can come in, you can go into the main, you can right click, change the target. However, if you start getting a couple of projects open, it's easy to accidentally pick the incorrect one. When you do pick one from another project that also has code you'll be running, anything like functional globals that exist in both projects will get shared. So if you're trying to keep different applications isolated that may use some shared resources, you gotta be mindful of which target you're picking. But I could go ahead and I could pick my computer. It's gonna take a little bit to recompile, and when I close things, it's gonna want to resave everything. So the way I get around that, once I get the initial I/O set up, is I'll create a, see, it's wanting to save everything because I've got it opened in computer context over here. Is just have a second project with no Creo target, but that, and then again, I've got my conditional disable structures that differentiate between running on a PC and running on an RT. And then with the PC, the things I can do are plop down a timed loop that just synchronizes to a clock. Oh, it's going to be too big. That synchronizes to just a clock and doesn't rely on the scan engine, but this will still let me run things at the expected rates and have everything like 99% identical to how it would be running in the RT context. So yeah, let me know if information like this is helpful, these little tips and tricks. I've got oodles of them banked up over the years, and I would, if any of this stuff is helpful, I'd love to keep sharing it. So thanks for checking in.